Let's say you have a mic, the mic's not working. Let's go number one. Change the microphone. See if the mic is bad. It's real possible it got dropped and it's not working, or there's a bunch of little wires in the barrel here. And those, if you're screwing around with it, those can become unsoldered. There's a lot of things that can make a microphone go bad and not function at all. And if you plug it in and it still isn't working, then we move on to, is the connector bad? XLR connectors are very simple. There's not a lot to them. You just take it apart, and you have your normal pin out here. You have your ground, and then your positive and your negative. And, a lot of times, let's say it's a phantom power mic, the ground is what's making your phantom power work. You have no ground, you have no power. Pin 1 is always ground. Pin 2 is always positive. Pin 3 is always negative. And it's just that simple. Memorizing pinouts, if you find anything like so Drake, like the video guys, like they have these crazy pinouts memorized that I could never memorize because of the color problem, and I can't see color. And they hand me a Cat 5, and they're like, "Can you fix this?" And I'm like, "I'll try." Man, I had this one day, I'm telling you. Oh gosh, that was a bad day. I was like, yeah, I can do this. I can do it. I swear I can do it. I can see good enough to do this. And I worked on it for like an hour. And I couldn't get the Cat 5 to work because I just couldn't get I was like, this isn't working. I can't tell which ones are what. So, sometimes there's little problems like that. But memorize all of your pinouts, because on any cable that you're using, you want to be able to quickly open it, look at it, and go, okay, that's what's wrong. And because we do a lot of integration, and I have more audio guys on my crew than just myself, we sit down and have a little solder party in the middle of the job, solder up all our new cables. I need to be able to just be like, something's wrong, pop it open, there's the problem, just by quickly looking at it. And, having those things in your memory are going to make you very, very fast. So, for an audio guy, you don't have to memorize much more than, TS, TRS, and XLR for fixing cable stuff. And those three are very easy. There's not a lot. You can memorize like MIDI. MIDI's really easy. 5-pin XLR is easy. 4-pin XLR is easy. There's not a lot of cables in there. It's not a lot to memorize. 5 pins maximum on something like that. Versus these video guys, they have stuff like HDMI memorized. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I cannot see. There's so many wires stuffed in an HDMI, I can't even see all of them when I'm like, oh, wow. We were going back to our microphone that's having a problem. So let's say I open it. I have now opened this. Well, this looks fine. I don't see any problems with this. Okay, so it's not that. And we move on down the line. So I go to the other end, or in this case, there's a connection right there. I would check that connection and make sure both of those ends are good. And I would just move right down the line. And if you're in a big hurry, which a lot of times we are, we'll be at a conference or something like that, we'll just switch out the cable next. So we'll test the mic, pop it on. Okay, it's not the mic. Look at this end, it's not this end. New cable. Just pull a new cable out as fast as you can, check this stuff later. This is kind of our method that we go down. Oh, man. Well, if it's not that cable, it's got to be the snake or the split. So we switch channels on the split. That would be our next step. And then after that, if that doesn't work, which generally by that time it's fixed, but if that doesn't work, we would automatically go and check inserts on the console. So do you see how I'm systematically working through this? It could also be a channel on the console or a preamp. But looking at inserts quick, I'm like, is an insert on, off? Okay, no, that's fast. Sometimes it is. It's like, oh, my insert's not working. Oh, Waves isn't working, actually. And, then I just grab the Cat 6 cable and plug it back in. And then usually everything comes back up. Or if you keep moving down the line, let's say it's a preamp, so we switch channels on the console. Oh, there it is. Or, oh, there it isn't. It could be an op amp. It could be so many things. At this point, we've really got ourselves in a mess. Don't start in the middle and try to work your way out to the problem. Try to start at the source and work your way back to where you're trying to head to. So when you're soldering iron, I like soldering irons with lights because I can see in the dark with them. When things are going wrong and you're like behind the curtain of a stage and you run back there, get a soldering iron with a light. They're cheap and they're really cool, but try to, if you can, run by the bathroom and grab, at minimum, I just fold up a little towel like this and put water on it because you need to be able to clean your iron really fast because you'll ruin your iron if you don't clean it. Some of you guys already know that? Probably. Yeah. Because I eat through irons, like I destroy them like constantly. But we do, gosh, think of a job like this, a job like this probably like 500 ends about that we put on and little panel stuff. And then when I just did the studio, we did about 3,000. We just roast our iron. So if you solder a lot, get one that you can replace just the tip with. So you can keep the whole solder pen, but you can like replace the tips on them. It'll save you some grief in the end of always having to go to Home Depot and buying the Weller with the light on it like this, which I have a bunch of these Wellers. They're great. It's good. If you don't have a soldering iron and you're a tech, get one because you should have one and you should know how to do this. I'm just waiting for this to heat up. Ooh, yeah. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay. So, always start. So I'm going to grab this paper. This is my shield from the outside world. We're going to take this part real fast just to kind of show you my method for doing it and something that speeds us up on the field. See, I'm not using my helping hands right now or anything like that. If you do have helping hands, it's helpful. That's for sure. Okay, so I just desoldered that or, took it apart. Now, do you guys know what a helping hand is? It's just like a little claw and grab stuff. Abel's has a cool magnifying glass on it. That's neat. So I just grabbed my helping hand here, and we like to have competitions with all the guys. It's fun. See who can do the most and not screw them up, of course. I always would go in, I'd strip everything like this, and then I just tin it real quick. So that just means put like a dab of solder on it. You just tin these guys like that. I also tin the connector. So, actually, I got to do this the other way. I'm going to burn my fingers off if I do it like that. Okay, then you have your end here, which a lot of you can't see, but say I get some fresh solder in there. If you use a nice solder, not necessarily like a Home Depot solder, but you get something that's a lead-based solder or something like that gives you bad headaches and probably will make me have brain problems later. It does this thing called, it like flows. So when you go through your stranded wire, it'll like flow into it, and you'll see it flow into it. And then when it comes off, it makes this isn't really very good solder. This is silver solder, but it's rosin core, so the rosin core is helping us. But you want to see that bright silver flow on it. If it's gray or foggy, like there's one, you can see these are semi-foggy. Like when I touch it, it goes. Good solder will stay bright silver. It won't be gray, and you guys can't really see, but this is kind of dull. It's not necessarily a great connection that this is going to make. You want that bright silver on both your wire and on this. And the reason I tin both sides is just simply so I don't have like 3 hands to do this. And so do that. And if your solder is especially a dark gray, when you put it on, it's going to make a cold solder joint. And a cold solder joint means there's no chemical bond. And if there's no chemical bond, it's really no different than just plugging 2 cables together, which is not ideal. The whole point of a solder is that it's it's acting like it's one thing. It's chemically bonded so that you're not losing signal at that connection. And so, especially when you're building a studio or something like that, I like solder patch bays. I don't really like D-sub patch bays because the D-sub bays, you're adding connections. You got to think, when we go from the input, that's one connection, and then we go through it to a D-sub connector, that's a second connection. We go out of this into the preamp. That's 2 more connections on the front of the patch bay. Back out the D-sub. Back to whatever gear we're running it through. Let's say we were going to run it through an 1176, out of the 1176, through the D-sub 2 more times, through the patch bay 2 more times. Like, if you put together how much signal loss by the end of this, it's insane. Like, so if you can do clean, chemically bonded solder joints across your entire patch bay, you're going to be keeping that signal at its maximum strength.